What's up, my wizards? It's Dev from MTG down there on the YouTube.com. As usual, we like magic. Today I've got 14 more Kaladesh spoilers for you today. And some of the stuff has got some people talking about some things. So let's go ahead and take a look. First, there's Key to the City. This is 2 generic mana for an artifact. Tap, discard a card. Up to 1 target creature can't be blocked this turn. And whenever Key to the City becomes untapped, you may pay 2 generic. If you do, draw a card. This seems pretty good specifically in sealed, where games tend to go longer, board stalls happen, you can get creatures through, and it's a good mana sink to draw cards. Card advantage is also good in long games and board stalls, so specifically in that format I like it. I'm not sure about anywhere else, although an artifact that allows you to both draw cards and have creatures go unblocked doesn't seem bad by any stretch. They spoiled a few cards in different languages today, and this is the first that's going to require a translation. This is Incendiary Sabotage. It's 4 mana, 2 generic, and 2 red for an instant. As an additional cost to cast Incendiary Sabotage, sacrifice an artifact, and Incendiary Sabotage deals 3 damage to each creature. Yet another thing that looks really, really good in Limited, and it is an instant, by the way. Really good that this is at instant speed, but people are asking if it'll make standard play. Now again, instant speed makes this a really, really good combat trick. And sacrificing clues won't be, or artifacts won't be incredibly hard because we have clues. Anger of the Gods, this is not. I really wish that it were, but you do have to pay for that instant speed. It's just like, I'm willing to pay the extra mana, maybe. I just don't know if I'm willing to have to sacrifice an artifact. Although that does bring up, fun deck building challenges, we'll say. I don't know if this is the replacement for Languish, which is what people are freaking out about. Is this the replacement for Languish? I don't think so, and I really hope not. Planar Outburst is probably the replacement for Languish at the end of the day. We'll have to see, but I like this card, especially in limited play. I'm just not quite sure it can break out. It's borderline, though. This is Angel of Invention, the last card spoiled yesterday. It's 5 mana, 3 generic, and 2 white for a 2/1 Angel with Flying, Vigilance, and Lifelink, and Fabricate 2. And other creatures you control get +1/+1. The card is pretty good, although it has the same problem that a lot of 5-drops, especially white 5-drops, are going to have. The white Gear Hulk looks really good. We probably want to find room for that. And Avacyn is one of the more played white cards, and probably the most played card at 5 mana. In the format right now. So I'm not sure that decks will want to sandwich this in, although specifically green-white tokens might like something like this instead of Avacyn. A lot of those green-white tokens decks will play like 2 of Avacyn, which is good for giving all their creatures indestructible, but can sometimes wipe all their creatures when they don't want that to happen if they're not careful. Seen it happen more than once. So this seems to be an option that will not bite you in the butt at some point in the game, no matter what. And I like the push-pull. If you make it a 4/3, then it's got 4 power, it's got the life link, so it'll gain you a little bit more life, but if you elect to put the 2 counters on the board, then you're putting 6 power on the board, split among 3 creatures. So this has a couple of different modes, is how you want to look at that. And it doesn't seem bad either in a deck that just wants to establish a big presence late game. 6 power split among 3 guys is actually pretty good, and that's not even counting any other creatures that you have out. So in a green-white tokens build, I actually don't think the card looks horrible at all, honestly. But it all depends on what we end up seeing. A lot of people really don't like this card, and I don't understand that attitude. I really like the Anthem effect. I like the versatility on the card. You can make it a big guy. You can get 3 dudes at one time. Flying Vigilance, Lifelink, good abilities. So I'm a fan of everything that it does. I just want it to find the right home. And it'll take some testing to figure out if green-white tokens is right, or if we just want to keep playing Avacyn. But this looks like a tempting option. Early this morning, we saw a cycle of creatures that give us energy counters when they enter play, and they're all common. Most of these look really good and limited, but there's 2 that I actually sort of have my eye on for slightly higher level play. So let me talk about these real quick. First, I'm going to show you 3. There's Thriving Rhino, Thriving Rats, and Thriving Ibex. All of these are creatures that, again, give you energy counters when they enter the battlefield. And none of them look bad in limited play, especially Thriving Rhino. I think he looks pretty good in a green-red energy deck that we're going to be drafting up, or maybe even a sealed deck. The way to look at these is the max they'll ever get in most games is, is 1/+1/+1 counter. It depends on what you're using your energy on, how you draft your deck up, all that. But I like to look at these as like Thriving Rats is a 2-3, basically. But I don't want to think it'll get much higher than that. So Thriving Rats, 2 mana 2-3 is pretty good. That's not bad in limited. But Thriving Rhino looks the best to me just because it already has a deck it definitely goes into. But let me show you these two. This is Thriving Grubs and Thriving Turtle. Now, Thriving Grubs, I like in not only, again, the green-red energy deck in limited, but I think this actually looks kind of good in the constructed green-red energy deck if that becomes a thing. Because the way I want to look at this is, sure, it could be a 2-mana 3-2, and you'll use that option sometimes. But what I like about this is that it's an on-curve, 2-mana, 2-power guy that gives you 2 energy to play around with. Thriving Turtle might be my favorite of the bunch, not only because it's a King of the Hill joke,
my new name is Energy Turtle,
but also because it's a very early, good blocker with 3 toughness on the first turn. That's not bad at all. That sets you up to have some energy, very early on in the game. It's the earliest way of getting energy with a body, which is really, really nice, not only in limited where there's going to be decks that, want to set up, get energy slowly, I like the black-blue limited energy deck that uses like Live Fast and Die Young. They'll want something like this. On turn 1, good body blocker, definitely, and gives you energy to play around with. There's not much on the first turn that we've seen so far that'll give us 2 energy to play with, and this gives us a body on top of that. I really, really like that about the card. This is Cultivator's Caravan here. We've seen a vehicle a day here recently. This is 3 mana for a vehicle. It's a 5/5, and you can tap it to add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool, and you can crew it for 3 power. So like super beefy Lifespring Druid is what this reminds me of, basically. A 3-mana artifact that taps for any color. We actually already have things like that in Commander that see play. So having that option on a thing that can also swing for 5, it seems pretty good right there. So I actually don't mind this card. I'm not sure it should be rare, but again, in limited, if this were an uncommon, it'd be good. And if this were an uncommon, I don't know. It kind of feels like a rare. I just don't want to open it, basically. I don't think this is going to be, a $5 card or anything. But it definitely looks pretty interesting. That's all I can really say about it. I'm not sure this is broken. But I do think that it's basically a mana rock that can swing for 5. That's good, right? That's good. Here's Wild Dreams right here. It's X, X, and a green. For a sorcery, you can return X cards from your graveyard to your hand and exile Wild Dreams. Well, this is kind of reminiscent of Recall for a lot of players that played back in the day, I would imagine. Although I'm not quite sure at least, about this thing. 3 mana to bring anything from your graveyard to your hand is not terrible. I don't like the sorcery speed on it. And 5 mana to get 2 cards back is probably not the worst deal ever, but I'd like the deal to be slightly better, is all I'm saying. And this could see possibly some play if there's like a combo deck or something with it, but outside of some weirdo possibility like that, I'm not sure that it actually sees play. I want to be a fan. I really would like to be a fan of this. I'm feeling like the investment is really, really high. Here's Kambal. I'll say it like the suit. Kambal, Consul of Allocation. He's 3 mana, a generic, a white, and a black, for a 2/3 legendary human advisor. And he's got, whenever an opponent casts a non-creature spell, that player loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. This looks like a pretty good removal magnet. It's probably what he's going to be a lot of the time. But I do like it in Commander, maybe not as your Commander, maybe, I don't know. But, sort of as a supplementary card, I can see him there. And maybe in Standard, a lot of these cards are red. People are comparing this to Eidolon of the Great Revel. I don't know about that. I think Eidolon's way better. But this at least looks cool, maybe a sideboard card against some stuff. If you're playing against the Thermo Alchemist deck, maybe, they'll probably just kill this. Or maybe just a straight up control deck, like let's say Esper Control or Blue-White Control is a thing in the upcoming format. This looks like it could be okay against it, but likely it'll just soak up removal once, But, that being said, sometimes these cards are played, and usually cards like this, again, are red and just deal damage to the opponent. They don't also gain us life. So there's a cool push-pull there where they're like, can I afford to lose 2 and have them gain 2 just to play this, spell? So it is interesting in that it will influence your opponent's choices. But I'm just not sure at the end of the day how much play this sees. Maybe, again, as a sideboard card. I could see that. Here's one of the more interesting cards of the day for sure. It's pretty deep. This is Lost Legacy. It costs 3 mana. That's 1 generic and 2 black for a sorcery. You name a non-artifact, non-land card. Search target player's graveyard, hand, and library for any number of cards with that name and exile them. That player shuffles his or her library, then draws a card for each card exiled from hand this way. Notice the emphasis. A lot of people are saying that you can target yourself with this, which you can legally do, by the way, and then end up like exiling 4 Eldrazi Scourges or whatever, Eternal Scourges, and end up drawing 4 cards and just playing all the Scourges whenever you want to. You can only draw cards for each card that you exile from a player's hand. So you'll, if you target yourself, you'll get 1 card this way, some of the time. So it doesn't quite work that way, although it is relevant to say that it can target ourselves. I definitely like the card a lot, and it will probably see a fair amount of sideboard play in this standard. This is Aetherhub, a land a lot of people are pumped about, and I do not blame them. I am right there with them. This is Aetherhub. It's a land. Whenever Aetherhub enters the battlefield, you get an energy counter. You can tap it for a colorless mana, or you can tap it and pay an energy counter to add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. In most situations, this is a better Tendo Icebridge, and will see standard play almost certainly. And check out the rarity on the thing. It's an uncommon. Like, how awesome is that? This is going to be one of the chase uncommons in the set, too. Because, people will play it alongside Tendo Icebridge. In Commander, it's really, really good, I want to point this out, too, before I get too deep in the analysis of this stupid thing. This is one of my favorite cards all day. The Energy Turtle. From earlier, you turn 1 island, Energy Turtle, turn 2 this, and suddenly you've got a Gemstone Mine. It seems really good too, People are saying that this is the replacement for Pain Lands. It might totally be, totally possible, and if we have leftover energy from things, Live Fast, Die Young, any of these creatures, Voltaic Brawler, anything, then we basically can just pump it into any color mana. That's really fan-freaking-tastic. So I really like the heck out of this, and honestly, you'll only need it for the first couple of turns. If you're playing a 2-color deck, then after the first few turns, you'll likely have the mana that you need on board, aside from this land. So after a while, you're going to be using it to pay generic mana costs anyway, so you don't need to have energy dedicated to it. There's a lot of really good things to like about this card, Nonetheless, I want to point this out, guys, again, one more time. This is uncommon. This is uncommon. We can all get a playset of this probably easily. This is the newest card, spoiled so far. I think it's just an hour old at the time of this recording. This is Dinavolt Tower. It's 3 generic for an artifact. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, you get 2 energy counters. And you can tap it and pay 5 energy to have Dinavolt Tower deal 3 damage to target creature or player. This looks pretty good at first glance, but a lot of people are saying that this will probably just slow down these, instant and sorcery decks, these spells decks, basically. People are saying maybe Thermo Alchemist, but at the end, Thermo Alchemist on turn 3 wants to be doing, they want to be casting 2 or 3 even spells on turn 3. So I don't know if this is ideal for them. Thermo Alchemist runs up against the deck that it knows is going to grind the game out against it, then maybe this could provide that little bit of extra value that deck needs. Possibly. 5 energy is a lot. That is a lot. But that deck right now isn't looking like it's going to be using too many things that consume energy. Maybe just this card. But again, I'm not really sure how well that's going to work out. It's not 100% sold that this card is good enough. I hate that it costs 3 mana, consumes your whole third turn, theoretically, and any turn you play it after that, it's losing value because you won't be playing as many spells, So, not a huge fan, but I do want to see if it can do work. That is all the spoilers for today, so far at least. I'm sure there's either going to be more spoilers super late into the night, they've been doing that lately, or there's going to be some first thing tomorrow morning. So check back in with us and we'll have some more stuff for you. We'll be covering spoilers until they're finished. And look out for that Pauper video. A lot of people are asking me about that. 5 different deck ideas in one video that use nothing but commons, and they're all standard playable. A lot of people are excited about that one, and I want to have it out by the weekend, so be looking for that Saturday or Sunday morning. And I will see you guys later. If you enjoyed the content, hit the thumbs up button, comment, let me know how you felt about all of these cards. Am I overjudging or underjudging anything? I'm always interested to talk to you. And I will see you guys later. Also, sub if you're new. You should subscribe, whoever you are. Do it, please. And I'll see you guys later. I'm Dev from SBMTG. Thanks for watching, my wizards.